Well, hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to episode number 243 of Buddhist Biohacker Podcast. My name is Lisa Gunshore. As always, I am your host and demystification guide, and I'm very excited because today we are not just live streaming on YouTube, but we are live streaming into the Buddhist Biohacker portal. It is my brand new mobile app that's launching next week on Tuesday. So I'm very excited. It's all working. I can tell, Denise, it's working. Yay, it's so great. So everybody who's joining in the live, I would love for you to share your comments and questions, share how you're feeling today. And we are here with one of my favorite guests, Denise Dryden. She is the author of a brand new book called The Indigo Assignment. She is my co-host for Exploring the Indigo Frequency, and she has a lot to say that has nothing to do with indigos today. So welcome in, Denise.
Lisa, I'm so thankful for you, for everything we've been doing together and how much fun we have when we're playing with these concepts and sort of exploring and learning together. And I just thank you for having me on the show today, because this is going to be fun.
I love it too. We have such a great energy, and it's a big, big day. So I do want to share, everybody who's joining in the live, I do have some pretty big announcements at the end of the show today. Not just some free gifts and some exciting news about the mobile app, but also news about my exit from YouTube. So please stay on towards the end of the show so that you can get all of the information. I love this. Crystal is saying, I am buzzing high like a bee today in North Carolina. Hi, Crystal. Welcome in. I'd love for everybody to just share, like, how are you feeling? I think the buzzing is great. Oh, and Tracy, great day. Good to see you gals. Thank you, Tracy. Tracy, pop into the portal and comment so I can see what happens when you do that. Test for me. Be my beta test. Oh my gosh. So Denise, we've been talking about the indigo frequency all year. And of course, that's my passion, because man, am I an indigo. And I have to share, it's been kind of interesting. The last few weeks, as I've been preparing for this new launch, I've done a lot of reflection on who I am and what I am. And it's pretty amazing, like, how unconventional I really am. Like, it really is amazing. There's so many instances where I was out of convention and not in the system and fighting the system and all these things. And so I definitely relate to the indigos. And what we're going to talk today about is the diamonds and who they are, and also some of these other kids as well. But I want to take a moment and have you share with us, how in the world did you even become an expert on these different generations of kids? Because that's a whole thing in and of itself. I'd love to hear the story. Before you talk, though, we'll say hi, Michelle. She's saying she's more lethargic than usual. I get the Schumann notifications on my computer, and it said it's 67 about 30 minutes ago, so it's pretty high today. So that could be right.
I had to check to see if there were any flares going on, because I usually go through Pam Young, and she's like on it, spaceweather.com. She puts it out there and she goes, by the way, it just happened 20 minutes ago. You're like, thank you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I haven't looked at any of that either, but I noticed that it came up with the lightning bolt, like 67. I was like, okay. Anyway, so share, like, how did you get to this place?
Well, thank you for asking, because it's been an odd journey. I have three very unique, highly sensitive, beautiful children that required three different kinds of parenting, right? So I was always into the alternative lifestyle, alternative education, anything that was addressing the way that each of these kids, needed something different from the school systems, from the culture that they were in, everything. I went into therapeutic placement through the admissions department for a young adult program in 2005, and then really made a name for myself working within the Utah, North Carolina, Oregon programs that were all, like that therapeutic programs where you send someone to wilderness, you send someone to rehab, you send someone into therapeutic boarding school, into horse camps, into programs on Hawaii, everywhere. And what I was doing was reading psychoeducational assessments, and they're like 30 to 35 pages, and they address, they put them through the WAIS, the WIS, they measure their depression index, they measure their attention attention abilities, and then they come up with a series of diagnoses. And I'm really good at it. Oh my God, I can read these pages, and I sort of hold my hand out, and the kid starts talking to me and going, yep, that's important. Now, yeah, just ignore that stuff. And pretty soon me and this kid are in this system of finding out what he or she needs in program. And what I noticed is in about 2007, 2008, the kids started to get really, the ones in program started to go from being very obstinate, oppositional, defiant, sort of that quirky kid is like, F you, I'm not going to school anymore. I'm going to smoke a lot of weed, and I'm going to destroy your car and use mom and dad's, your car and use mom and dad's money. And that was the sort of like the kid, and they had some alcohol and addiction issues and whatnot. And all of a sudden there was another kid coming down the pike. And I was like, this kid's very different. This is an introverted, quiet, video game or screen addiction, profound learning challenges, never really found a niche as to what they are and who they are in learning. And I'm like, this kid's very different. And so learning about this kid kept going like, oh, you haven't even touched the surface. You have no idea how complex and how many intelligences I have, and how sensitive I am to the environments, and how I don't thrive well. And so I went to my channel, Araya, and if you've read, the Indigo assignment, I introduced Araya as the channel I worked with for 12 years. And I went to her and said, I need to know more information about this kid, these kinds of kids, because they're very unique. And that's when I was introduced to the crystalline child, which is a vibrational violet flame, Venetian council kind of kid that holds all of these intelligences. And I'm like, oh, okay, so how does that relate to the indigo? And then they were like, okay, let's go. So for a series of maybe 2 to 3 months, I was going to Araya weekly, sometimes twice a month, going like, okay, what's an indigo? What's a crystal? What comes after crystal? Rainbow. What's after rainbow? Diamond. Okay, now let's get some ideas into who are they? Why'd they come? And it was as if I opened a book that I couldn't put down. I couldn't stay away from it. And in 2015, when I started coaching I had started my own coaching for years. I've been doing coaching, but like went in and worked with this program it was a therapeutic high school program here in Montana. And I was seeing indigo kids, crystal kids, and then the rainbows showed up. And then I was like, I have to write all this down. And I turned it into a class where I siphoned all of the research and turned it into an online class where I outlined each of these 4 energies in the timelines when they came. And what I've learned is that they're progressive. They are intentionally, strategically seeded into human incarnations, and they have purposes. The indigo is the warrior, the boots on the ground, the protector. The crystalline is the vibrational holder, the one who holds the vibration of love and multiple intelligences. And it's almost like they're the seeds, the first farmers. So you've got the lookout scouts, the indigos with the swords going, stay away. I got a crop over here. I have to fix. I have to grow. Right. And then these crystals are the holders. And then when the rainbows came, they only came for 5 years. And they came within, I think it was, I'm all over the place with timelines, but it was 2002 to 2007. And they're these blenders. And I like to think of them like the little bees that cross pollinate everything. So they're the ones who are trying to remove the separation of light within the human energy system. So it's not good or bad, or right or wrong, or white or black, or Asian or old or young, or male or female. They're just saying, just be light. And they were strategically put in cultural political, high influence family systems where they just showed up and they're like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And one of my favorite rainbow kids that I worked with was an adopted young man who came into a system that was from the East Coast that was so beautifully committed to higher education, like go to an Ivy League school. And this was a kid who's going like, I'm not going to college. And, started at 14, 15 years old. Yeah, I'm not going. And the parents were like, they're hired me. Can we work with him so we can get him to go to school? And what I had to do was sort of turn it around and go, so what happens if he doesn't? And what does life look like when you empower him? So then you have these blenders, and all of this is moving towards what we want to talk about today, which is this diamond frequency that couldn't be here on our planet until late 2008, early 2009, was the first time where this brilliant, radiant light being could hold on Earth. They tried from the 60s forward, and it was like miscarriages, what do we want to call it? Stillborns, crib deaths. And it was almost like, okay, we're going to go in and we're going to test out the Earth. Can you do it? Can you do it? No, not yet. We have to practice this. We have to practice that. So we have indigos, crystals, and rainbows getting the world ready, getting the earth grids, getting the frequency, getting the conditional, unconditional love, removing the separation of light and dark, so that the crystalline, so that the diamond child can come. And so when they started to come in 2008, 2009 forward, was the first wave, kind of like, wow, I made it. This is crazy. What are we supposed to do here? And then there were different waves of, it's almost as if we have 4 segments of these new energy kids, indigos, starting from in mass 1977. But within the diamonds, there's these categories as well. So the really big, heavy-hitting diamonds started arriving during the lockdown. They were conceived or born between 2020 and 2021, and they continue to come in mass now, which is like the gates open, the world's ready for you. Come on in, land. Let's do this. That's what it feels like to me. Does that make sense to you?
It does. And it's interesting what you say about the rainbows in a short time, because it seemed like, I don't know, it was probably 2006 or 7 that I landed on Indigo. And during that time, I'd see little things pop up about rainbow children over the years. There's never been very much. So it seems like it is like a small group.
Well, and it is a very small group. And what I noticed is that Lee Carroll and what's her name? The one who does Doreen Virtue. They started to call these new energy, like these, they call them indigos. These are all indigo children. And so even within the research, and you go into books, they're going to say, these are indigo children. And it's like, yes, because that was the first wave of something that was different. But to be able to differentiate, okay, so this is an indigo, then pull it out. This is a vibrational crystalline kid. Pull it out. This is a rainbow kid that is a very specific task. Now this is a diamond. And I'm within the fields of energy work in children. I am still informing people who've been working with these children for 10, 20 years that this is what a crystalline looks like. And they're like, oh, that's the difference between an indigo and a crystal. Because I was thinking that they're unique. They have traits, but they were the same. And I said, no, they're different. They come from different galaxy trainings. They come from different specific technologies. They come from different skill sets that are going to expand onto our planet. Because all of this is to bring us into the Aquarian age, right? Where we have to be able to access all of our intelligences. We have to be able to download and upload into the Earth grids. We need to be able to communicate with other galaxies. We need to be able to sustain our own energy system and not be misaligned or manipulated by the external. All of that has finally arrived here since 2020. That was part of the beauty of the pandemic, or pandemic, whatever you want to call it, right?
Well, and Tracy says, I just want to share his comment. Tracy, thank you for testing. It doesn't show up where I want it to, but it shows up. So that's all that matters. Tracy says, I just love all the supporting information of what we all have been feeling and seeing in our children for so many years. Thank you, Denise. And I agree. And it's interesting to me because when I think of even just my own like siblings, there's 4 of us, and my sister is this very sensitive, empathic person. And then I'm this very intense, like warrior person. And then my little brother was like the very sensitive to touch and taste and incredibly brilliant, but, you know, went and got his diploma from the college. Like, I mean, you know, like you're saying, just like get out of the system, but he's brilliant and now doing these brilliant engineering things. And so I just think of all those differences. And so I'd love to hear, like, what can we talk about? What are some specific differences between indigo and crystal and rainbow? Like,
Yeah.
Because here's what's happening in my mind, and I'm guessing it's happening with our listeners, which is I have kids. What are they?
Well, you know, it makes sense because, and, you know, whether we muscle test or whether we actually ask our child, please, you know, I think that that's the best way that I have found, which is to go into the meditative state and to connect to your child's energy and say, tell me, inform me, you know, should I, you know, approach this like you're an indigo? Do you want me to talk to you like you're a crystal? You know, are you indeed a rainbow? Or, you know, like talk to me and tell me, or give me signs, let me know. And it'll be really interesting how they'll, you know, like I'll say something like, a crystal child can't, you know, they were the wave that went through the schools that they were like, I don't know what to do. They don't read. They must have auditory processing disorder. They're on the spectrum. This is where the Asperger's in the DSM actually was created during the time when they were going through the school system, and then they yanked it afterwards and said, you know, it's just all part of the spectrum. And you're like, yes, okay. And that their video game, that's how they check out, and that's how they allow their intelligences to do something else, is they're playing something that has their attention. And the parents are like, I hate the video games, right? And you're like, there's too much. And there's also a reason for it. Okay, so within the indigos, which we know is 1977 on, they're still coming. They are the protectors of the crystalline children, because the crystalline children, as you know, are highly sensitive. They're intuitive. They're introverted. They're independent. They're quirky. They don't learn the same. They, you know, I love Big Bang Theory because it's almost all about like this kind of very emotionally aware, but very quirky and different from the traditional norms, yet they are now the new norm. So the crystalline children came in mass in 1989. So for 12 years, the indigos preceded them. That doesn't mean it's exact. It means that, you know, in mass in 1989. So they've been coming. They're the scientists. They're the inventors. They've been coming throughout centuries in small little groups and then doing their magic and then getting out. But they came in mass to hold the technology of the grids. So what you have is someone who has a brilliant a set of intelligences that doesn't measure out the same way that other kids do in standardized testing. They have really, really high test scores and no verbal skills. Or they have great math, but they can't, or great creativity, and they can't blend the two, but they are fast on their feet and they're witty and they're really shy, and they like people or they don't like people. And so you're kind of like, what am I supposed to do with this kind of kid, right? But they needed protection. That's why the indigos were there. The indigos prepped the ground. They got the earth ready. They started to hammer down against all the untruths that were getting in the way. And then when the crystallines came, they hold the unconditional love, and they're in the heart chakra. So indigos are in the third eye. Crystals are in the heart chakra. So what we know from Math Institute is that the heart chakra is 5,000 times more intelligent than the brain. And that they read environments, they put things together, they're interacting on a multidimensional level at all times. So when we're watching them having a hard time transitioning from one activity to the other, or hyper-focus, non-focus, complete ADHD, running around like they don't know what to do, or working on a set of cars for 3 hours, and you're like, how are they doing this? Or beating or doing something, this is where their focus is. And so they're the first ones who came in with the Christ consciousness really embedded in them. Okay. So and what they did was they flipped every school system that they went through. First, the Indigos did, because they broke down all of the rules. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. Then this one, they're like, oh, well, then if you don't do that, I'm going to punish you. Okay. I like to think of them as turtles. The crystal is like a turtle. You can go like, okay, well, then that means that you can't play video games tonight. And they go, okay. And you can't, no consequences work with them. Nothing. And you can't punish them. They aren't motivated by punishment. They just look at you and they go, if that's what you need to do, you do it. You're like, oh no. So our parents, older generation X and younger baby boomers didn't know what to do with this, because there was no cause and effect. They broke the cause and effect on our planet, which was like the most amazing thing anybody could do, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then the rainbows came in 2002 to 2005 or 2007 for 5 years. And what they did was they removed the divisive dualities, which is where there's separation, where there's I believe in this and I don't believe in that. They were like the ones who went right after those edges. And they just loved hard into them, because they hold all of the rays, they hold all of the majestic skills. They're from they're Arcturian designed, which are the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, especially as far as negotiations, peace, modeling, and refusing to to slide into reaction. Arcturians don't react. They're the wisdom keepers. And so when you have this small group that are like, well, Mom, I need you to stop talking about her like that, because she's a beautiful, gentle woman. And then all of a sudden the mom's like, oh man, I've been schooled by my 5-year-old. Where I'm holding divisiveness, where I'm holding hate, where I'm holding anger, where I'm holding judgment, they're the ones who are going to do that, because they hold the creation codes of opening the loops. So they're the higher dimensional geometrons, which means that they're making that grid bubble and work it, right? Okay. And so this kid is the kind of kid that will just change everything that they're in. And they'll go like, the kid will say, or she will say, I'm going to go see my best friend. And you're like, so who's your best friend? Oh, that's Mrs. Smith down the street. She sits on her porch with her cat and we talk about everything. And you're like, your best friend is a 75-year-old woman who lives by herself with a cat. And she's like, oh, I can't tell if it's the cat or her, but they are both wonderful. And you're like, okay. Or they'll hang out with babies, or they'll hang out with, like, I know of a little young rainbow who joined his brother, who's 10 years older than him, Dungeons and Dragons group, and took it over and was like the dragon master in 2 sessions. And wow. He was like, you can't come to my Dungeons and Dragons anymore. You're just everyone loves you too much there.
Oh my God, I love it. Pause for 1 second, because we have to say, Tracy says, oh my God, this is my son. And he almost made me crazy. And Margaret said, my granddaughter is Diamond, born in 2010. My grandson is Rainbow, born in 2011. So I just wanted to get that in. And feel free, you guys, keep sharing and put your yes. too.
Well, and remember, not everybody born in these time frames is a crystal or a diamond or a rainbow. It is a seeded, and these were seeded.
Oh no, I don't know if you froze or I froze.
We're back.
We're back. I don't know who's freezing, if it's me or you, but we're back.
Highly possible me, because I'm in a brand new place checking out my Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Yes.
So yes, that's a time frame that they would. And as we know within the Indigos is that there's scouts before and there's scouts after. So crystalline kind of moves around, and rainbows are the ones who came in solid. A lot of them born in London, Washington, D.C., Rome, Los Angeles. It's so interesting. New York City. And they're the ones who put the pressure on the family. Like, I don't get what you're doing, Dad. You need to do something different for work. And the kid's like, and the dad's like, oh no, because it's true. Okay, so when these, does that make sense? So those are the three that worked up, and they all have different impacts on school. You know, the beautiful part about watching when these rainbows show up in school is that they'll show up in they'll have their hair done at the top like a girl. They'll have camo pants on and boots, or camo pants on and boots like a boy, and then they'll have a rainbow shirt on that was their mother's shirt from the 60s, you know, or the 80s, you know, and you're just like, wow, this kid's pretty cool. Or I know one who used to wear his mom's hot purple and hot pink track outfits.
Wow.
And he took them off so that they were mid thigh or mid calf because they were too long. But he liked the colors, and he liked the way that they shined when he walked. And I was like, yep, that is definitely that rainbow kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you want to know about diamonds? Because we want to also like know that all of this is working up towards holding this frequency that is unusual and beautiful and powerful and intimidating. I have a diamond granddaughter, and I will start by saying the first thing, and then I want to ask you, is that I met her when she was about 8 weeks old because of COVID, because of everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I walked in, she sat in her little chair and she went like this. And she watched me walk around the room, and her eyes were like a little bit slit, like, who are you? And it wasn't that she didn't know me. It was that I wasn't responding to her with respect or something. So that I figured it out, and I went in the next time, and I walked in and I looked at her and I went, and in my head, I said, I am so pleased to be here with you. And she goes, okay. And then she was interacting with me, and I'm like, yep, I forgot. I'm standing in front of a master, and I need to be able to realize that she's here teaching me, not me teaching her. Or I'm teaching her some parts of earth inhabitants, and she's teaching me how to be the kind of coach and writer and speaker that I am, right? Because it's her job.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you want to know? What questions come up, or let's look down here. What questions come up to you, all who are watching, about what a diamond is?
Yeah, I love to hear everybody's questions. And I know for me, like, you know, it is really hard to kind of tell the difference. It's very easy to identify that your child is sensitive or special, but they are all unique. And it's like, well, what unique goes into what? You know what I mean? And so I think I want to throw a few thoughts out that are rolling around in my head, because maybe that'll get some questions and some thoughts going. So when we talk about indigos and crystals, like, that's something that I think I'm most familiar with because of just my age and what I've learned over the years reading people. And I've always associated, like, as an indigo myself, and the indigos that I know in the healing world, in the spiritual world, we're all very intense. That's for sure. We're intense. And we're also, one of the interesting things I've noticed is indigos, we all seem to be like gongs, brass, Tibetan stuff, like the heavier, more intense things, at least I've noticed. And then the crystals, to me, I always look at those little lovely fairy women who are very ethereal, usually very small too in their presence. Like they have a strong energetic presence. And they're the ones playing the crystal bowls and doing Kundalini yoga. And they're the ones wearing white. And I don't know if that, I mean, I have no idea if this is just a generalization. So I'm throwing it out there just to say, like, what are your thoughts on all that? Because in my head, I've always noticed, like, to me, those crystal energies are so much more empathic and sensitive, whereas in indigo, we're more psychic. We're more using the clairvoyance rather than the empathic. So what are your thoughts on that? I'm just curious.
I like where you're going with this, because you're starting to put together pieces like clairvoyance, claircognizant, and in the book, I did an entire section on the clairs, and I did it.
Oh, good.
It was interesting, because it just came out of nowhere. Like, you're going to have to write about the clairs, because the indigos sort of showed up and they were like, wait a minute, I might have some psychic skills. I might actually be pretty intuitive. I might actually know things that I don't know where I know them, or I feel them. And so what we started to see was the beginning of high levels of sensitivity, which is where the invisible environment is bouncing up against our energy fields and informing us, but our traditional environment doesn't know how to label that or what to do with it. So when Elaine Aron came out with The Highly Sensitive Person, she did a phenomenal job of addressing, from a scientific perspective, invisible things hit you in these like 4 ways, and she laid it out very well. And she did that in 97. So she already had 20 years of indigos who were already showing us what we do with our sensitivities. We get angry, we get bold, we get strong, the thing I want to point out is that the indigo at their core is going to be getting information at all times through their pineal gland. That is the communication line that comes directly into the indigo. And I would imagine, this is just theoretical, that it's the claircognizant mental processing loop. So, the indigo is almost like Don Quixote fighting the invisible storylines, the patterns, the untruths, the injustices of the world. And so their world is in their head. So you're going to see indigos doing a lot of things to quiet their head, to learn how to understand the difference between intuitive knowing and mental acuity.
Yeah.
The body that goes with it. Okay. And there are going to be indigos who are going to spiritually bypass the job that they're here to do and the intensity by going into the airy fairy, I'm the crystal yoga teacher who talks and sings because this is the only place I know how to quiet my brain. So it's really interesting that it can be both a skill and an escape.
Yeah.
As you know, in everything that we do. Right.
Oh, and I can speak directly to that, because that's, as you know, I mean, this has really been up for me, and I'd love to share with the audience here. Like, it's so easy for me to talk to spirit guides, float out of my body, do a meditation or astral travel. It's absolutely an escape and a bypass from being in the body, being uncomfortable, and even having to deal with the mental piece. Like what you're talking about so resonates with me, which of course it does because it's about indigos, but like it really resonates because I'm so analytical. And so I can analyze. And then you get to a point where it's like, am I analyzing or am I using my intuition? You do have to ask yourself that a lot.
Well, and as truth holders, and we can go into this in our Indigo show, as truth holders, what happens is like, I'm getting reaction to that. Is that me or is that them? And then we're in our head processing all the time. Now, let's drop down to the heart chakra, which is the multiple intelligences. And what I am getting now is that as the diamonds entered onto the planet and as the diamonds get bigger, they're going to activate the indigo into their wisdom, the crystal into their technologies and their intelligences even higher. So what we have is a vibrational being. So the vibrational being is either going to find a way to laugh and dance and play and be happy with that, or find a way to feel very victimized and separated, or find a way to access that vibration in ways that don't make sense in the schools, so that they, like video games, or binging on television shows, or building Legos for hours and hours, so that their intelligences can start to catch up. So their quirky yet magnificent way of coping is very different than the indigo. They're not fighters, they are holders. And so, we have a tendency to say that they're the quieter, softer, nicer. Not necessarily. They're just stubborn, and they're intense, and they're right all the time. And then when they make a judgment into human reactions, where they're not spending enough time watching and doing cause and effect, they can be wrong. And when they're wrong, they're kind of like, yeah, well, I'll get it right next time, right? So they're learning how to interpret vibration and interaction with the human population, with the human constructs. So that crystalline kid doesn't mean that there are the beautiful little, kids who live in the vans, who drive around and make their hemp clothes and do their tarot readings. Again, that may be the best place where they know how to vibe. They're music players. They're servers in restaurants. I find a lot of crystals love to be baristas, and they're perfectionists with their coffee, or their program, or they have their laptop and they work remote. God, the best thing that ever happened to them was that they were freed from being in an office, and they got to work at home, and they're 10 times more productive, which their bosses found out. They're free range. They're going to work in breweries. They're going to work in coffee shops. They're going to work on a little pod, out in the outside where they want to be. And they turned into gardeners, and they turned into family men and women, and they learned how to do vibration in a different way. And so our oldest crystals are 3 and under. So they're even in the first phases of parenting at this time, and they're phenomenal parents. They're also the ones who were raised during the Rugrats. I think of them as pod kids, because they were kind of like, wherever we go, there's 5 or 6 of us. And if you live within the same group of moms or dads, the 5 or 6 of you kind of do everything together all the time. Like my pod. And then occasionally this adult comes in and says, hey, I'm your mom, or I'm your dad, or, I'm your parent. And they're like, yeah, you're one of like the 6 people I see all day. So get in line. And, and they don't have any hierarchy about parent-child. They just interrelate to the people they live with, like in Big Bang Theory, like in Modern Family, like in where the kids are more important than everything else.
That makes me laugh, because that's how my 4 stepkids are. I mean, they are definitely their own little unit of 4, and they do their own thing. And sometimes they're all separate, but then they get in these moments where they're all together, but they're always in their experience. And because we have a blended family, so we have 2 households, they do they're together in those households, but the parents, it is very much what you're describing. Like, that's exactly how they are. They're their own kind of thing. And they're very amazing at doing, like, when we go on vacations or trips, or like, they do their thing together. Like, they have their own little unit for sure.
And so we know that their unit, they stay together. They room together, like, for the rest of their life. I even, down the street from my parents' house, 2 millennial crystalline families bought a big house together and did 2 master bedrooms and main living area. And there's 2 families, because they've been roommates they're all through college.
Wow.
So we just decided to raise their kids together. So you're like, that makes sense to me, right? So, Katie did a good thing, both skill and escape. Yep. I noticed that. With the rainbows, it's an interesting thing. Their gift is to create a vibrational sound light experience at all times where you wake up. Think of this one young man his coached his family I was talking about, who didn't want to go to college, is a vibrational keyboardist who does background or dance music, and his greatest goal is to go be a rave musician, because he knows how to create an environment where the vibration, everybody starts humming. And when I think of him, I think of the Avatar scene where they're all sitting underneath Mother Tree and they have their braids plugged into the ground and they're all humming together at the same time. This is what the rainbows know how to do. So they do it in restaurants. They do it with music. They do it with gathering places. And so they don't have a lot of resources yet because they're still really young. They're only 20 at this point, right? And so what we get to see is what they're going to do as they go forward. Mm-hmm. But what they're doing is they're creating, and I love the way that you can just feel it, they're creating this hum. And they grew up going to concerts and like not the concert you go to for 2 hours, the one you go in your sleep in your car and you listen to music for 3 days, right?
Yeah, festivals and yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that vibrational kid, it's really, you have to sort of get into that with them. And then when you play with them with that and you allow doors to open all the time. Hey, I have things to learn. I have places in me that are rigid. I have places in me that hit these walls. The more we learn how to do that and release it, whether we employ them, we raise them, we're friends with them, they help us become non-dualistic. Right? They help us hold higher dimensional processes. The thing that I forgot to mention is that I'm looking for my notes because it's the rainbows that open the door for the fifth dimension to reside within the human energy system.
Okay.
Like when in 2002, 10 years before the shift, they came in and said, hey, fifth dimension's possible. And they started showing us what it felt like as parents. And then all of a sudden we have this shift in 2012 and we've been growing and growing into a fifth dimensional access since then. Yeah, I forgot about that. I wanted to make sure I hit that. And then the last part is that the diamonds, the thing to remember about them is that imagine the most superior wisdom keeper from the galactics or the dragon masters or this or that, where you're up against something that you don't know. It's so foreign to you, but they're telepathic. So whether you understand them or not, they can hear your thinking and you can talk to them in your head. And so the entire interaction is an energetic communication. They don't really care what's going on the outside. They can eat whatever they want. They don't take on things. They're a purity of energy. And you and I were talking before this show started that the word that came up through the channeled materials with Araya was that they're the Ein Sof, AIN capital SOPH. Which when you look up Ein Sof, it's kind of like the dictionary and the books go like you're going to look up Ein Sof. It's because it means the endless one. It is the constant rejuvenative energy system of all light. And so if you have the spectrum or the prism, you've got the indigos who are the blue, you've got the crystals who are like the violets in there, and then you have the rainbows which hold individually all of them and let you know. And then at the end, you have that pure beam of light when you hold it up and it reflects everything and all at the same time. That is the diamond. And that in order for a diamond to come into a family system, the family system has to be able to hold unconditional love, has to be able to provide a non-construct, they can impress conditioned. If they do, they're going to get their asses handed to them really quickly because it's almost like nothing they're impermeable. And they will leave as soon as the soil is not conducive for them. And so they will come and go in family systems in grief, and they will come in for purposes to hold the planet on a higher vibration. But they are not committed to staying until they want to, because this is a very toxic, very hard place for them to be, especially when you have grandparents and daycare and schools and everything trying to put all of these conditioned pieces on them. They're just like, oh boy, I have so much work to do down here.
Yeah. So for all of us listening who are like, okay, that's my kid, like And now what do we do? So I know you've written a book, and I want to talk about that in a minute, but how do you support parents and kids right now, and how can people reach you to get that support if they want to understand more about their child, they want to understand which energy their child is, and they want some tips and tricks? Like, how do they work with you?
Thank you. Thank you. I've been coaching family systems since 1995. So the premise that I'm always working under is the parents hire me and they go, hey, help us fix him. And so I always go back around, or her, and go, so what do we need to do with those two? Because they certainly aren't getting who you are and what we need to do. So I've been advocating for the child and changing the parent perspective. And what has led me to, and if you go onto my website, which is down listed on my name, DeniseDryden.com, I offer three different focus points on coaching. And I did it specifically because it is purposeful. The first one is that we have to have self-knowledge. We have to know where we get tripped up, where we're in our reactions, where we're in our patterns, whether we are in our skill or we're in our escape, right? Because if we don't know that, and we're trying to parent, or we're trying to instill values onto our child who already has those, and we aren't there yet. So self-knowledge is the first thing. The second thing is adaptability and stability, because no matter what happens, what do you do when somebody pushes you, nudges you, tells you to F off, tells you this or that? How do you learn how to hold yourself in a balanced state and have a multidimensional vibrational interaction with a child that doesn't harm them? Because what we know how to do is rage and put vibrational tension on them. But what we don't know how to do is say, wow, we're having some issues here. How are we going to deal with that? So the adaptability and stability is really important. And then the third is, how do I apply all of what I'm learning towards this child? Which is this, if I have a crystalline kid, this is what I'm facing. If I have a rainbow kid, this is what I'm facing. If I have a new diamond kid and I don't believe that telepathic communication is possible, imagine what your thoughts are doing to your kid when they're reading them all the time. Mm-hmm. So what we do is then we get very specific as to which new energy kid you really are trying to work with, or kids, because I had 2 crystals and 1 indigo. And the 2 crystals couldn't have been more different. Mm-hmm. But they are the closest of the siblings because they hold that vibrational thing still. So like me as a parent, like, oh boy, what do I have to do to become a parent that is able to meet my crystalline kids where they are? And it took me 20 years. It was not an easy path. Now, so you can hire me for coaching. You can read the books. This is just I was telling you, I don't want to be the indigo lady. I want to be the new energy kids lady, because indigo, and the next one's a crystal assignment. The next one's a rainbow assignment. The next one's a diamond assignment. And, and I'm trying to just dive in and show you all of the different parts of what we need to know when we're looking at the beauty of what an indigo is, or a crystal, or a rainbow, or a diamond. And I wonder, what's next, because the diamond is going to take us through these notches into the Aquarian age, which is light, invisible communication like Wi-Fi, and a self-sustaining energy system that isn't under enslavement.
Yeah. So funny story, this morning in preparation for the show, I asked that question, like, I wonder what's next. And I saw the most beautiful turquoise light beautiful turquoise light, and this no time energy. It's like this, I mean, where we're headed, I just don't think we can know it, but I think it's going to be amazing. So I'm curious what starts to pop up even in your own work over the next decade, as to see what new comes in.
What I've noticed is that since I discovered the sheer beauty of the diamond, I noticed that joy and bliss, the actual concept of bliss, Not, hey, I'm happy right now for this hour, but no matter what happens, I'm happy. I'm in this like childlike wonder that this earth, this world is really fun to be in, and I can hardly wait to see what happens today as I'm going through this. To be able to move out of where this is heavy, we have food shortages, we have another lockdown coming, we have a political situation, we have war, we have this, we have that, to go over here and say, wow, look at the beautiful things in this world and start to create those. If we're creation based energy systems, if we get to choose, which one are we going to create? Are we going to create what the news tells us we need to keep repetitively creating, or do we go towards the diamonds and go, how do I become? Now, there's just one really strange thing. I have a great aunt that I had very little relationship with. And when she passed, her gift was to give me a 3-carat yellow white diamond.
Wow.
And said, this is for her work, and she needs to have it on her body at all times.
Wow.
That's what I was told when I got it when I was 22.
That's amazing.
And so, now that I'm wearing it and looking at it, and I have this, oh my God, this ostentatious, like, big thing on my hand, right? I'm like, but this tells me at all times, it's about joy and bliss and sparkling and light. And so how do I keep remembering that that's what I want to start creating, not the other?
That's beautiful. I love it. And I love you so much. And we're gonna come back around for some closing comments, but I do want to share some announcements with everybody. So first and foremost, starting next week, I will not be streaming this show live on YouTube. I will be streaming it live in the Buddhist Biohacker portal for all of the members in the portal. So I will still be sharing audio for everybody who wants to listen on audio, but I am leaving the YouTube platform in that space. I will still be posting inspirational sound bites and some different things on my YouTube channel, so there'll still be some goodies for you. But I encourage you to be part of my mobile app launch on Tuesday, June 7th. And download the app and get into my premium space because it's amazing. And with that, if you'll indulge me, I would love to just share a minute-long trailer with you guys that kind of gives you an idea of what is inside the portal. So here we go.
Wow, that is so cool.
Oh, it makes me want to cry. It really, you guys, this is my legacy. Like, this is what I'm going to leave behind on this planet Earth is this app. There's over 1,200 videos. There's 43 weeks of study in my courses. There's community. There's live stream classes, moon circles. There's just so much that I'm offering to all of you, including continuing Buddhist Biohacker live in app and guests and connections and support for your own personal transformation. And so in March of 2020, I pulled together a summit like out of my butt to support everyone, because I know how difficult it is to go through the dark night of the soul alone. And that's really what this app is about, is that we don't have to go through any of this alone anymore. And I encourage you to get on my wait list. So if you go to BuddhistBiohacker.com, you'll see an announcement bar at the top that just says get on the wait list. That's going to put you in position to receive notice as soon as the app is ready for in iTunes, in the Apple Store, and also in Google Play. And I have a really special share. I have a gift package worth over $300 for everyone who joins the community on Tuesday by midnight on June 7th. And I just want to share briefly what you're going to get because it's really incredible. You're going to receive tarot spread worksheets from Kate Wind Astrologer, including 8 different spreads and spreads you can use with tarot or oracle cards. You're going to receive a Bring Your Vision Board to Life ebook that is all about creating your own reality, also from Kate Wind. You're going to receive a free oracle message from Delisa Hawking, as well as a 3-card oracle message that's worth over $15. Suzanne Hunt is giving you 2 incredible experiences, Embracing the Empath Within You, a powerful workshop to understand what it means to be empathic and highly sensitive. She's also giving you a healing meditation course to open your self-awareness and to live from your own truth. If you haven't worked with Sue Hunt, she is by far the most incredible teacher of spirituality I've ever known. And she is the most brilliant clairvoyant trainer I've ever seen. So I just want to shout out to her. And then Block Therapy, which we love so much, has gifted us with a free stress reliever video just for our community that is in the app, as well as a free sampler program that's worth $47. That's a sampler program of different classes that you can take with the block, in addition to what I'm teaching live in the app. So you get all of that when you download and join on Tuesday. So it's a pretty awesome thing. And for all of you who are already VIPs, those gifts were open to you today. So you can go gift yourself in the app for all of you. And if you're not, again, just get on that wait list. And that is all of my announcements. And again, YouTube live stream Buddhist Biohacker shows. If you want to interact with guests, it will not be on YouTube anymore. It's going to be in the portal. So all of that said, okay, Denise, final words of wisdom today.
I think that part of what the rainbows are asking us to do is to let go of the separation and division in our heads as to, is it this, is it this, is it this? I need to know. I need to be able to, let's trust ourselves to allow that child that you're curious about to present. Now that you've heard this, watch how they begin to interact with you differently, because you just went through a process of hearing and understanding and opening a door that maybe wasn't open before. So now allow your child to inform you, and because there's no place to research this. This is why I'm writing these books. This, you can find little snippets here or here, and some of it's correct and some of it, it needs more time, more research. So trust yourself and open the door and ask, hey, what do you want me to do with this information? That's what I would say.
Well, I love you so much, Denise. It's been just a pleasure, as always. We could talk for another hour easily.
Of course.
Oh my gosh, of course. And you guys can join Denise and I back here for the Indigo frequency in a few weeks. Mm-hmm. And again, Denise's website and all of her information is here in the show notes. And Tracy is saying, I'm grateful there's information and someone, you, Denise, to reach out to help them navigate. The speed info is continuing to really pick up. So true. So true. And thank you all for joining me. I hope to see everyone on the launch party on Tuesday. And I love you all. Thank you so much, Denise.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everybody, for being on there, and spread the word. Pass this around to anybody you know with kids that are fun and wonderful.
Yeah.